do you want to learn how to play modern gospel piano chords like that? Well, this is one of my favorite modern gospel piano techniques, and I call them chord islands. And if you listen to modern gospel music, you're going to hear these chords all the time, and they sound absolutely beautiful. So in today's lesson, you're going to learn everything that you need to know to get started playing these chords, and let's go ahead and dive in. So first, what is a chord island? It's kind of a strange term. Well, the term chord island refers to chords that are not usually played together because they belong to different keys. For example, if you're playing chords in the key of C, you might play a C chord and then an F chord, maybe a D minor chord and then a G chord. And all of these chords sound good together because they belong to the key of C major. But modern gospel pianists will expand their chords beyond the ordinary chords that you would find in a key. So a modern gospel pianist might start on a C chord, but then they're going to expand beyond this chord. What the heck am I playing? Well, I'm going to teach you exactly how to do this, but before I show you that, if you're enjoying this lesson, please hit the like button, and if you're new to this channel, be sure to subscribe for more videos just like this. Alright, if you want to play chord islands, there are actually different types of chord islands, but my favorite one is what I call floating chord islands. And it has this floating quality to it where the chords just feel like they're kind of suspended up in the air, and they almost have this heavenly sound to them. So they're super beautiful to play. So how do you play these chords? Well, I'm going to show you in 6 simple steps. Step 1 is to start with an ordinary major chord, and we're going to add one note to this chord, which is our D. And this chord is now called a C major with an add 2. And by the way, a quick way to find this additional note is to just go up a whole step from the root, and there's your add 2. Step 2 is to play the third of the chord, the E, on the bottom. So here's the C add 2 chord. We get rid of the root on the bottom, and then you can add the C here. And now we have this beautiful C add 2 over E. Step 3 is to learn the 3 essential floating chord modern gospel voicings. And a voicing is simply how you take the notes of a chord and the order that you play those notes up the piano. So the first voicing has the root on the top, and you're going to play it like this. Okay, super beautiful. The formula for this voicing is that we put the third on the bottom, then we have the root, the second, the fifth, and the root. So the formula is 3, 1, 2, 5, 1. Voicing 2 has the third on the top, the E, and you're going to play it like this. Okay? The formula for this is 3, 1, 2, 5, 1, 3. And the third voicing has the fifth on the top, the G, and you're going to play it like this. Okay? The formula for this is 3, 1, 2, 5, 1, 5. All right, now that you know the voicings for your floating chord islands, next I'm going to show you how to use these voicings to actually play these chord islands. So here's how you do it. We're going to start with a C on the top, and we're going to play our C major chord, but we're going to use the voicing for the floating chord island. So what's the voicing for a C chord where the C is on the top? Well, it's this. Remember this? 3, 1, 2, 5, and 1. Okay? Now, here is the magic. We're going to keep the C on the top, but we're now going to make this the third of the next chord. Well, what is C the third of? Well, it's the third of an A flat major chord. So now let's play the chord island voicing for an A flat chord with the third on the top. Well, do you remember the voicing for this one? It's going to be 3, 1, 2, 5, 1, 3. Isn't that gorgeous? So here's what we just did. We started on a C chord and we went to an A flat chord. Doesn't that sound gorgeous? And you might be thinking, Johnny, why do these two chords sound good together? Well, it's because they're connected by a common tone. And the common tone between both of these chords is the C on the top. And so that's the trick behind this technique, is that you can connect chords that normally wouldn't go together because they share one of the same notes in the chord. Now, from this A flat chord, what if you took that C and you made it the fifth of the chord? Well, what chord is C the fifth of? An F major chord. So let's go ahead and play that chord island voicing on an F chord where the fifth is on the top. And you're gonna play it like this. Okay, remember the formula for this: 3, 1, 2, 5, 1, 5. Okay, so let's go back to that A flat major chord and now the F chord. Doesn't that sound beautiful? And once again, we would normally not play an A flat chord to an F chord, but you can in this case because they share a common tone, the C. So let's play the whole thing together. We have C, A flat, F. And so this is how modern gospel pianists build chord progressions, is they'll start on a chord like C, and they might play a little melody, and then they'll go to the E, but instead of playing a C chord, they'll go to, okay, an A chord, okay? And then they might bring their melody up, maybe to an F sharp, and then here they'll go to a B chord. Okay? And they might bring this down to a D sharp, but now they'll play an A flat chord. Now, before you start playing these really cool chords, you need to first practice chord landings. And this is basically how you practice discovering the various chord options that you can use depending on the melody note. I'm going to show you 5 examples for how to do this, and then you'll be ready to start using these chords in your playing. First, let's say you start on a C chord and your melody goes down to a G. That's your landing spot. Well, when you get down to this G, what if instead of using a C chord, you used another chord? Well, what are your options? Well, G is actually the third of an E flat chord, and it's also the root of a G major chord. So let's try the E flat major chord. How do you voice this chord? Well, you're going to play it like this. Remember the voicing? 3, 1, 2, 5, 1, 3. So let's put the 2 chords together. We have, and it works because the G is part of a C chord and it's a common tone. Now you could go to a G chord here. You could go, but it would sound less like Chord Islands because a G chord is the 5 chord in the key of C. So if you want to get this Chord Island sound where you have 2 chords that normally wouldn't go together, then it's better to step outside of the key. And in this case, the E flat chord is not a chord that you would normally play in the key of C major. All right, second example, what if you started on your C major chord and you walked the melody up to an E? What chord could I use on the E? Well, you could play an E major because the E is the root, but you could also play an A major because the E is the 5th. So let's try the A major here. What is the chord voicing for an A major where the 5th is on the top? Well, remember the formula? It's this one. 3, 1, 2, 5, 1, 5. So let's put these chords together. C to A. Now, what if the melody went down to a different note? For example, what if you went and you wanted to land on an A, which is not a chord tone? Well, guess what? You can do this as well. You could play a different chord here. In this case, you could play an A major, you could play an F major, or you could play a D major. Which of these chords is going to sound more like a chord island? Well, since the F chord is in the key of C, it's not going to really sound like a chord island. So let's maybe try the D chord, okay? What's the voicing on this chord? Well, 3, 1, 2, 5, 1, 5. Okay, so let's put it together. C and the A. What if we wanted to move the melody up to an E flat? Can you do this? Yes, you can. So what are some of the chords you can play with the E flat? Well, you could play an E flat major chord. You could also play a B major chord. That's kind of interesting. Or you could play an A flat major chord. So let's try the A flat major chord. What's the voicing for this chord? 3, 1, 2, 5, 1, 5. Does that sound gorgeous? So let's go back to the C chord and the A flat. All right, last example. What if I started on the C chord, but I wanted to walk down to B flat? Can we do this? Yes, we can. So on the B flat, how can we harmonize this chord? Well, you could harmonize it as a B flat major chord, you could harmonize it as an E flat major chord, or you could harmonize it as a G flat major, which has a lot of black notes. So what if we go for this G flat chord, which is definitely not a chord that you would normally play in the key of C major. So it's really going to have that Chord Island sound. So how would we harmonize the G flat chord where we have the third on the top? Well, you'd voice it like this. Okay, remember this voicing? 3, 1, 2, 5, 1, 3. So let's put the chords together. We have C to G flat. All right, congrats on learning these 5 different landings. And I wanted to briefly mention that if you want to do a deep dive and learn more gospel chord progressions, check out our gospel learning track where you'll learn my top gospel chord progressions. You'll learn how to groove on them, how to add really cool, colorful notes, how to solo over these chord progressions, how to walk bass lines. It's a ton of fun, so I'll put a link to that below. All right, congratulations to making it to the final step of this lesson. And in this step, you're gonna go island hopping. And this is where you can really start exploring all of the various chords that you can use with this technique. And I'm gonna show you 4 of my favorite examples so you can see exactly how to put this into practice. I'll play them for you and then I'll break them down. So here's example number 1. So for this one, I'm starting on my C chord, going up to E, and now I'm going to harmonize the E with an A. Okay? And now for the C sharp, I'm going to harmonize it with a C sharp chord. Okay? And then now for this G sharp, I'm going to harmonize it with an E chord. Now the B is harmonized with the G, and now the A is going to be harmonized with the D. All right, here's example 2. So I'm starting on my C chord. I'm walking into a D sharp, so I'm going to harmonize this as a B chord. I'm walking into an F sharp, so I'm going to harmonize this as a D chord. Hear that? Now on the A, I'm going to harmonize it as an F chord. Okay. And we're finally going to end on a C melody note, and we're going to harmonize it as a C chord. All right, here's example 3. So I'm starting on F, melody up to F, and down to E flat. We're going to make this an E flat chord. Okay. And now bring this down a half step to the A. We're going to make this a D chord. And now down to the G, we're going to make it a C chord. Doesn't that sound pretty? And now we're going to bring this to an F sharp. So let's make this a B chord. Now to the B, we're going to make this an E chord. Okay, up to E. And now let's go down to E flat. So let's make this an A flat chord. And bring this down a whole step, melody down to D flat, so it's going to be a G flat chord. All right, here's the final example, and this is actually what I played at the very beginning of this video, and here it is. So we're starting on C, up to E, and on the E we're going to go to an A chord, up to F sharp, and now we're going to go to a B chord, and up to G sharp, And for this one, we're gonna do a D flat chord, okay? Next, we're gonna go to an A melody and harmonize it as an A chord. And now we're gonna go to an F sharp melody, harmonizing it as an F sharp chord. And we're gonna land finally on our E flat and harmonize it as an A flat chord. Hey, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the lesson, please let me know in the comments. Also, be sure to check out pianowithjonny.com. We have over 1,000 step-by-step lessons for all playing levels, where you'll learn your favorite songs, styles, and how to improvise at the piano. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.